Please be seated. Must not say it loud.
I heard you.
Okay.
I heard you too as well.
For the record, both assistant state attorneys are present. Mr. Rodgers is present. All four defense counsel, all of our witnesses on the stand.
So the defense counsel did provide to the state during the break the requested jury instructions. One is one they have drafted. The other comes from the standard jury instructions on criminal conspiracy. The state does not object to either.
You don't care which one?
It's all one thing, or
You want them read together then? Okay.
I'm just going to hand to the court, that is exactly what defense counsel handed to the state.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay. Is this it? Okay. You guys want me to read this when they come back out, at the end of your direct, at the end of his testimony? What's everybody's pleasure?
What is the pleasure of defense?
I think at the end of the draft.
Okay. All right. Okay. State's ready.
Yes, sir.
Defense is ready. Okay. Bring him out. You need some water? Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, you said your voice was hoarse, so I figured I'd offer.
I'm in isolation. I don't hardly talk, so when I start talking, I get hoarse.
Please be seated. I'll ask our jurors again, did you follow my instructions not talk about the case among yourselves with anybody else or look up any of the people or places involved? Even if you did so inadvertently, now would be the time to raise your hand and let me know. For the record, no jurors lifted their hand. State.
Okay, Mr. Wright, I think where we left off, you had arrived at the house. Did you actually get inside the house?
Yes.
And you said Mr. Sievers had given you the alarm code. Was the alarm armed or disarmed when you arrived?
It was armed. He had told me that it wouldn't be, but it was.
And did you get inside the house?
Yes.
And what did you do when you went inside?
Poked around a little bit. Really, it was more for to see what the layout of the house was at. I'd been there before, but he hadn't, so we needed to see, kind of the layout of the house. Also needed to check that the fence line. We didn't get into that, but he also said that he had trimmed back some bushes back there so that a person could go over the fence to get into the house rather than using the garage door.
I'm sorry. When you say he said that he had trimmed back, you're referring to Mr. Sievers?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No problem. All right, so when did you expect Dr. Sievers to come home?
The night before they left, Mark, we had our last communication the night before they left, and he wanted to recap information.
Sustained.
When did you expect Dr. Sievers to come home?
I expected her to be there at 11:25.
Sunday night?
Yes.
And why did you expect her home at 11:25 as opposed to any other time that day?
Well, because when Mark gave me the information, he told me that she would be getting in at 11:25. That's the reason I brought that up.
Now, when you say you understood she'd be getting in at 11:25, did you expect that she'd be arriving at the house at 11:25, or that she'd be arriving back in Fort Myers at 11:25?
Yeah, that was a misunderstanding. He was telling me that that's what time she would be home. He built the drive time from the airport to the house into that. And I didn't realize that. I thought that's what time the plane landed.
Okay, and we'll come back to that in a second. So now it's still 6 o'clock-ish in the morning. You got into the house. You said you poked around a little bit. Did you stay at the house?
No, we were only there about 5 minutes.
Okay, and why did you leave?
Well, I knew that his mom was going to be coming to take care of the animals sometime that morning, but I didn't want to be around the house during the daytime.
And when you say his mom, you mean Mark Sievers' mom?
I'm sorry. Yes, Mark's.
So where did you go?
We went down to the beach, to Bonita Beach. Just kind of walked around a little bit, checking things out. At one time, Mark had showed me that there were some small little lots that are along the beach road there that you can actually park in for free instead of parking at the main beach. We parked in one of those, walked around a little while. I think we actually ended up taking a short nap while we were there, while it was still early and it wasn't too hot.
Okay.
As we drove straight through on the way down.
And who did all the driving?
We took turns.
So you did some driving as well?
Yes.
And so did Mr. Rodgers.
Yes.
And how long did you stay down at the little lots down there in Bonita Beach taking a nap?
Well, there was a lot of moving around that morning, so I may have some of the details mixed up as far as what time slot it was in. But we, about 11 o'clock, we went back to Walmart, or not back. We went to Walmart. Jimmy had told me that he wanted to go to Walmart. I think that was about 10:30, but I think about 11 we got to Walmart.
And do you remember where that Walmart was?
I don't.
There was a Walmart somewhere in Southwest Florida.
Yes, we used the Garmin to find it. So
You used you put in Walmart into the Garmin, and you went to the closest Walmart.
yes,
And did you do some shopping in Walmart?
we did.
And let me just ask this question. Y'all didn't come down here for law school graduation.
No,
You didn't come down here to go to any school at all, right?
no.
All right, so what did you buy at Walmart?
Multiple things. I bought a pair of water shoes to wear while we were at the beach. I had old shoes, but they were there and I saw them. They were on sale, so I grabbed them. I know Jimmy bought a pair of shoes. I also got wet wipes, a couple of towels, and some other clothes. I think a shirt, a t-shirt, maybe shorts.
What do two grown men need wet wipes for?
I don't know. Wasn't my purchase.
Mr. Rodgers bought
Yes,
wet wipes.
yes.
Who paid for all the stuff you got at Walmart?
I rang it out. Mark paid for it, but
You paid for it with the money Mr. Sievers gave you?
yes,
And Mr. Rodgers' wet wipes?
yes.
And Mr.
We
Rodgers' shoes?
yes, we checked out all at once.
So after shopping at Walmart, what did you and Mr. Rodgers do?
We went back down to the beaches.
And what did you do down at the beach?
Walked around. Really, we kind of traveled the whole route in between Bonita Beach and the Fort Myers Pier. That whole area, just kind of stopping along the way at different places. It
sounds like you're on vacation.
Well, we had that entire day to spend, and my thought was the best place to hide is in a crowd. So we had to spend the day anyway. I brought extra clothes and a towel and things because I knew that we were going to be going to the beach. But we went to the pier and went there. We also got something to eat again. I'm sorry, I left something out. You asked where we went once we left Walmart. We grabbed something to eat, and then we also drove by the office building to check that out.
And when you say the office building, you mean the Sievers medical practice?
Yes.
All right, so even though the two of you are hanging around down on Fort Myers Beach, you're not on vacation?
No,
It sounds like you're just killing time.
we were.
And did there come a time when, now that you and Mr. Rodgers go back to the Sievers home?
Yes.
Do you recall what time that was?
I think we got back. I parked in the same parking place that we did that morning. I believe we got back there about 10:30 to the lot.
10:30 p.m.?
Yes.
And what did you do when you got back to the home at 10:30 p.m.?
Well, we walked back over there. That morning when we left, I left the side gate. The gates on their privacy fence only open from the inside. I had left one of the gates unlatched with the intentions of going back into the house that way instead of having to open the garage door. But I guess the wind had blown it shut or something. But so we did end up having to go back in through the garage door again.
And when you say garage door, do you mean like the side door to
No.
the garage or the big door where you drive your vehicles in?
Yeah, the garage door opener door. So
Why did you want to avoid going in the big garage door?
just the noise. This was the middle of the night, so the light would come on. I just wanted to try to avoid drawing any attention.
Or you were trying to avoid detection by the neighbors?
Yes.
All right, so you went back inside the Sievers home,
Yes.
and that's the home on Jarvis Road,
Yes.
and that's where they live.
Yes.
And what did you do once you got back inside the Sievers home?
We looked around a little bit again, just to make sure nothing had changed. Most of the time we hung out in the garage, but the first thing we did when we got there was we went out the side door into the garage door. The garage has the front doors where the cars come in, and then on the right there's a man door that goes out into the yard, which was left unlocked for us to get into that way. There's also a door that goes between the garage and the house, so just so you know which doors there are. The first thing we did was we went in and came right out the side door. It was really hot in the garage, but we got dressed there, put the suits on.
So when you say you got dressed, you already had on clothes, right?
Yeah, we had regular clothes on. We put on the one piece.
Jumpsuits?
Yeah, coveralls, I guess is what they would be called. But yeah, we put those on.
Were these? Let me ask you a question. These coveralls, were these the coveralls that were in the black backpack you mentioned earlier?
Yes.
Can you describe to the jury how you put those on?
Well, they're one-piece suits, so you just step in the legs and then pull the shoulders and hands up, and then zip it up in the front.
And what else did you do once you put the jumpsuits on?
We put on the rubber latex gloves, and then used the duct tape to tape the arm cuffs, the wrists, and also the ankles.
What was the purpose of doing that?
To try to keep from leaving any evidence.
Whose idea was it to duct tape the arms and sleeves on the jumpsuits?
Jimmy's.
All right, so now the two of you have suited up. It's now sometime past 10:30 p.m., right?
Yes.
What did you do now?
we were kind of just moving around. We were trying to figure out, kind of decide on what the game plan would be. We talked about a couple different things. We talked about us both being in the garage. Talked about us both being in the house. Talked about one being in the house, one in the garage. But I was actually in the middle of the garage. Mark has a motorcycle that I was looking at that was in the middle of the garage. So
Okay. Let me come back to the motorcycle and let me take you back to that side door that you said is on the right side of the garage. How was that side door when you arrived?
well,
Was it intact?
it was unlocked. Yes.
And was it the same way it was when you left?
No, Mark had told me to make it look, or his idea was to make it look like she came home, walked in on an active burglary, and that's how this would go down. So while we were waiting for her to come home, I pried that side door open with something I found in the garage. It was a flat bar, crowbar.
And you pried it open, but did you lock the door back after you pried it open?
No.
You left it unlocked?
Yes.
All right, so we'll go back to the motorcycle. So now at some point it's after 10:30. You were supposed to make it look like a burglary.
Yes.
Did you go and take anything from the house?
No, not yet. Because there's some variables still as far as like exactly what was going to happen when she got home and how it was going to work. What I would have liked to have seen happen was that it would have been made to look like an accident, something that wasn't real violent. Looked like she slipped and hit her head and drowned in the pool or something like that. So
just to be sure, so that we're clear on what you're saying, when you say what you would have liked to have seen happen, are you saying that you wanted for you and Mr. Rodgers to kill Dr. Sievers?
Objection, Your Honor.
Is that what you're asking?
yes,
What was the objection?
The form of the question.
Overruled.
Answer the question.
You wanted for you and Mr. Rodgers to kill Dr. Sievers and make it look like an accident?
yeah, that was an idea that I had in my head.
And how were the two of you going to pull off making it look? What was the plan to make it look like an accident?
Well, I was gonna somehow render her unconscious. I was hoping to do it with a rear naked chokehold, which causes somebody to pass out pretty quickly. And then figure out exactly how to do it. There was no definite plan in place. We still thought we had plenty of time to fine tune those actual last plans, but
So during the hours-long drive down from Jefferson County, Missouri, all the way down here to now Bonita Springs, you and Mr. Rodgers hadn't yet come up with a plan for how it was for Dr. Sievers to die?
well, we had Mark's two plans. It was left up to us exactly how it would happen. It would, as far as which location. There was just not knowing which car she drove, some of that kind of stuff. There was no way to really make a full plan, prior to actually getting there. So
And Mr. Sievers had told you worked either at the office or at the house.
yes,
And then at some point, the fact that you were at the house now at 10:30 at night and you're suited up in the blue suits had you ruled out the office.
yes. When we went by there that day, it was too exposed. And when Mark was telling me his plan for it to be at the office, initially he said that he thought that we should use a gun and shoot her and make it look like a mugging or something.
And using a gun wasn't a good idea,
No,
especially with you being a convicted felon?
yes.
Okay, let's go back to the house then, okay? All right, so back in the house now, you and Mr. Rodgers are suited up. You're all taped up. You're ready to not be contaminated, right?
Right.
And you're expecting Dr. Sievers to arrive in Florida at approximately 11:25 p.m.
Yes.
And you told us earlier that you were in the garage looking at Mr. Sievers' bike.
Yes.
And when you say bike, do you mean bicycle or motorcycle?
Motorcycle.
So Mr. Sievers had a motorcycle in the garage.
Yes, I've rode it before, but I was just wasting time waiting.
And what happened while you were standing there looking at the motorcycle?
She came home unexpectedly. The garage door light popped on. The door started coming open.
Where were you standing when the door started opening?
The motorcycle was in the middle of the garage between the empty bay where she would be pulling in and where the other vehicle was. So I was right in the middle of the garage. The light popped on. It was almost over my head. I just dove for the first thing that I could find. I dove behind where the motorcycle was at. There was a stack of boxes there, but I dove down behind that to keep the headlights from hitting me because of the direction she would be pulling in from.
So as you were expecting that as she pulled her vehicle into the garage, that the headlights would light you up and she'd see you.
She definitely would have seen me. Yeah.
Where was Mr. Rodgers when that garage door started going up? Where was he?
I'm not sure. I wasn't paying any attention because I was looking at the motorcycle.
Was he under the roof of the house somewhere?
Yeah, I knew that he was either in the house or he was behind me somewhere.
You just didn't know exactly where he was?
No.
All right, so the door starts going up, and she's coming home, and you said you dove behind the boxes.
Yes.
Did she pull in?
Yes.
What happened when she pulled in?
Well, she was driving the van, the minivan. So she pulled in. I heard a door open, besides the driver's side door. But I'm not sure if it was the back hatch or if it was the sliding door. But I heard a door open. It was on the other side of the van, so I couldn't see it. But from what I heard, a door opened. She pulled out her luggage and pulled it to the front of the van. Instead of taking it on into the house, she just laid it in the floor right at the bottom of the little 2 steps going into the house, which was directly in front of the van, which was almost in front of me. So,
And the vehicle Dr. Sievers was driving, the driver's side of the vehicle was on the opposite side of the vehicle where you were hiding?
Yes.
So when after she pulled in, you were still out of view?
Yes. As she was walking into the house, I was out of view.
So you said she gets out and she puts down her suitcase in the garage. What did you do when she did that?
Well, when I saw that she put the suitcase down and she started to go into the house without it, my concern was that as soon as she walked in the house, she would either set her purse on the washer and dryer was right inside of that little entry area, that she would sit her purse down and turn around to get the luggage. The light was still on where I was positioned at. There on that next to that door, just panic buttons on the alarm panels. I panicked. I thought that if she saw me, that she would either hit the panic button or take off running, and I didn't know where Jimmy was at, so I panicked. I jumped up and I followed her into the house.
Okay, and so let's pause here for a minute. And you mentioned earlier that you'd use some kind of a crowbar or something in the garage to mess with try to make it look like that side door had been pried open. Did you and Mr. Rodgers locate any other tools in the garage?
Yeah, when we first got there, when we were kind of looking around, Mark had a hand tool box, just a small box, but Jimmy had pulled a hammer out of it and kind of made a hammering motion and made a joke about it being destiny.
So Mr. Rodgers picked up a hammer, made a joke about made a hammering motion.
Yes.
Like whose destiny?
Teresa's destiny. Jimmy, one of Jimmy's nicknames, Jimmy the Hammer, is what he's used that name. So
Jimmy the Hammer is Jimmy Rodgers.
yes.
Okay, let's move ahead. All right, so were there any other hammers? Were there any other hammers in the garage?
Yes. As I started to go into the house, there's a small ice chest just to the right of that door. Had some stuff laying on it. There was another hammer laying on the top of that. It wasn't put there. It was there.
So Mr. Sievers didn't leave the hammers out for you and Mr. Rodgers to use them?
No, not intentionally.
Okay. It was there. It wasn't. You saw an opportunity, so did you pick it up?
I did.
All right. So in this moment now, when you pick up that hammer on that chest, you're following Dr. Sievers into her home?
Yes.
You're behind her?
Yes.
Does she see you?
No.
Do you have any indication at all that she knows that you're behind her?
No. Not going into the house.
So did you actually follow her from the garage into the interior of her home?
I did.
And by this time, you've armed yourself with the hammer.
Yes. I still had planned on using my hands, but I had the hammer also as a backup.
And so you still had planned to try and somehow put her in a chokehold and knock her out?
Yeah, if I was behind her, it would be very easy to put somebody, especially a smaller person, in that hold. The problem happened because.
And so were you able to get close enough to her to put her in that chokehold that you wanted to put her into?
No.
Why not?
Because I accidentally kicked the dog dish over. Their dog dishes that they have are actually on a stand, so they're off the floor. But it's an obnoxious dish, and it's in the worst place possible not to kick it. So
What happened when you kicked it?
The dishes went flying everywhere. It made a huge noise. It startled her. She started to turn towards me before I had gotten close enough to actually be able to get, to do what I wanted to do.
So when you kicked the dog bowl, your presence in the house became known.
Yes.
And you said Dr. Sievers started to turn towards you.
Yeah.
Did she in fact turn towards you?
She started to turn towards me. I was afraid that if she turned around, she would scratch me or do something to leave evidence. I swung the hammer and I hit her.
When you hit her, did you expect? What was your expectation when you hit her with the hammer?
I expected it to knock her out.
It didn't knock her out, did it?
No.
It's a little more difficult than you thought it would be.
I've never hit anybody with a hammer before.
So, after you hit Dr. Sievers, after she turned around, did she ever realize that you were there?
Yeah, she hadn't turned all the way around when I hit her, so I hit her still from behind, but more on the side.
On the side of her head?
Yes.
Or the back side of her head?
The back upper side, yeah, this area. But I hit her. She didn't seem to react to it at all. And
Did she say anything when you hit her?
Not when I hit her the first. So.
At any point, did you ever make contact with Dr. Did you and Dr. Sievers ever make eye contact?
Yes.
How did she look when you made eye contact with her?
Surprised.
All right, so did she just stand there and let you hit her with a hammer?
No.
What did she do?
Well, after I hit her, she finished turning towards me. She put her hands up to fight back, to defend herself.
Did she fight?
Yeah.
You fought for her life?
Yeah.
Where was Mr. Rodgers while this was happening?
At that point, I still didn't know.
You couldn't see him?
I didn't see him.
How many times did you hit Dr. Sievers with that hammer?
3.
And when you hit Dr. Sievers with the hammer, did you intend for her to die?
No, I was trying to knock her out and to figure out a better way of doing it. I never in a million years envisioned beating her to death with a hammer.
Well, let's be clear. You were there, suited up, because you wanted her to die, right?
Yes, yes.
And so at some point, did Jimmy reveal his presence to you?
Yeah.
Did Mr. Rodgers reveal his presence to you?
Yes.
How did he do that?
He appeared to my right and started hitting her also.
And when Mr. Rodgers appeared, was Dr. Sievers still awake?
She was still standing up.
Was she still alive?
Yes. She had her hands up when I swung the other 2 times, so I'm not really sure how that connected, but she was looking at me through her arms, and she said, "Why?"
She said, "Why?"
Yeah.
To you?
Yes.
And then you said Mr. Rodgers came from somewhere and he started hitting her. What did he do?
Just started hitting her over and over.
How would you describe how he was hitting her?
In a frenzy.
A frenzy? And you, so now you've hit your best friend's wife with a hammer several times, and now your other friend is hitting your best friend's wife with a hammer.
Yes.
And this was because the 2 of you wanted her dead?
Yes. We came there to kill her.
When Mr. Rodgers started hitting Dr. Sievers in a frenzy, as you described, was she still standing?
Yes.
Was she still fighting for her life?
She still had her hands up, yes.
And so when he starts hitting her now, she's engaged with both of you.
She's still facing me. He was to the side. So.
Were you able to see where he was hitting her with the hammer?
In the head.
And what happened to what did she do after Mr. Rodgers started hitting her in the head with the hammer?
I think she turned more into the kitchen and bent over. It seems like she had a hand on the countertop.
So let me ask you a question about that. You said she bent over. So when you say bent over, was she bent over at the waist?
Yes, she was still on her feet, bent over at the waist. Yes.
And was holding herself up on the counter?
I believe that she had a hand on the counter. I'm not absolutely positive of that. It could have been on her knee, but she was holding herself at that angle. So.
What happened at this point?
Just kept hitting her.
Kept hitting her?
Yeah.
Who?
Jimmy did.
Oh, you weren't hitting her anymore?
I was still at the point where I was still standing where I was standing when it started.
So if Dr. Sievers turned towards the counter, if you were facing her, and she turned towards the counter, and Mr. Rodgers, how's Mr. Rodgers able to keep hitting her in the back of the head?
He had to go past me.
He got in between you somehow?
Yeah. The way that their kitchen, I don't know if you guys have seen a diagram of the kitchen or not, but when you go into that entryway, it opens up into the kitchen, and there's like a long counter that's a standalone counter, and then I think the sinks and stuff are in that. When I caught up to her, she was just about to the counter, and she turned so that when I hit her, she was backed up to the counter, so she was between me and the counter. That area between the counter and the rest of, like, the stove and things, cabinets, isn't real wide, so.
And so, you told us now she's in between, you said she's at the counter. Mr. Rodgers has somehow gotten in between you and Dr. Sievers, and he's still hitting her?
Yes.
And did she stay standing the whole time?
No. She may have stumbled or something, but she basically continued to fall all the way to the floor.
And what happened after she fell on the floor?
He continued to hit her.
He continued to hit her?
Yes.
Mr. Rodgers?
Yes.
But you didn't hit Dr. Sievers anymore?
No.
Again, let's make sure that we're all clear. At this point, you still wanted Dr. Sievers dead, right?
Yes.
And did Mr. Rodgers also want her dead?
Yes.
So after she fell on the floor, what happened?
Well, she fell face down and was laying in the floor. And like I said, she continued to hit her.
Can you repeat what you just said, please?
I'm sorry.
I'll ask you to speak up, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sorry about that. After she was down on the floor, he continued to hit her.
And at some point, did Mr. Rodgers stop hitting Dr. Sievers with the hammer?
Yes, I'd ask him to stop.
Now, what did the use of the hammer on Dr. Sievers, what effect did that have on your plan to make this look like an accident?
Made it impossible.
Impossible?
Yes.
Okay, so at some point, did Mr. Rodgers stop hitting her?
Yes.
Why did he stop?
I physically went over there and put my hand on him and I said, stop. I physically walked over to the area where he was at and asked him to stop. I mean, put my hand on him.
I mean, I'm going to demonstrate on my trial partner here. Did you say stop? Did you ask him?
Sustained.
Did you gently ask him to stop?
Yes. I was just letting him know I was behind him. He was swinging the hammer up over his head, and I didn't want to get hit. So.
How many hammers did Dr. Sievers get hit with?
2.
What happened to the hammer that you hit her with?
After I had stopped hitting her, I dropped it on the floor.
On the floor in the kitchen?
In the kitchen, yes.
Did you pick it up?
No, I left it there.
You left it at the scene?
Yes.
What happened to the hammer Mr. Rodgers hit Dr. Sievers with?
I don't know.
He didn't drop it on the floor?
I didn't see what he did with it.
And this happened in Bonita Springs?
Yes.
Here in Lee County, Florida?
Yes.
And your agreement with Mr. Rodgers to effect the death of Dr. Sievers started in Missouri?
Yes.
And was that agreement still in effect here in Lee County, Florida?
Yes.
After Mr. Rodgers finished hitting, after you and Mr. Rodgers finished hitting Dr. Sievers in the head with a hammer, was she still alive?
No.
She was dead?
Yes.
Okay, so now after Dr. Sievers has, she's expired, she's on the kitchen floor still?
Yes.
Did she die where she lay?
Yes.
You didn't move her from the kitchen?
No.
You didn't kill her somewhere else and then put her in the kitchen?
No. To my knowledge, she was exactly where she was left when the last hit was done. I had actually turned around and
And and let me ask you a question first, okay? So what about this burglary plan that you said that you and Mr. Rodgers had discussed? Were there some valuables in the home?
Yes.
Did you take any?
As far as I know, nothing was taken. We had
Why not?
well, because of how this happened suddenly, and I thought that there would be time to do it after, to stage it or to actually take something after it was over, and because of how it ended, that didn't happen.
So after Dr. Sievers died on the kitchen floor, did you stay in the house?
No.
You
No.
left?
Yes.
What about Mr. Rodgers? Did he stay in the house?
He wasn't very far behind me.
The two of you left?
Yeah.
And when you left the house, how did you exit the house?
We went out through the garage door between the house and exactly the way we came in.
The one that you pried open?
Yes. Yeah. We went out from the kitchen hallway into the garage, and then went across the garage and went out that side door that I had pried.
What happened to the? Did you keep those jumpsuits and the duct tape that you had on? Did you keep that on?
No, we took that stuff off right outside that door, which is the same place it went on at.
Other than the jumpsuits and the duct tape, did you have anything else on to keep you from contaminating the scene or keep the scene from contaminating you?
I had a hat on. I think we both had hats on.
And when you took the jumpsuits off, did you leave them at the scene?
No,
What did you do with them?
they went back in the backpack.
And did you stay at the scene or did you leave?
We left. Like I
Where did
said,
you go?
back to the car, and then got back on the highway to come home.
What happened to the blue jumpsuits?
We stopped at a rest stop on the way back. I don't know which one it was, but we stopped at a truck stop and cleaned out the car. The suits were thrown. I threw my stuff away. He threw his stuff away.
Do you know whether or not Mr. Rodgers threw away his blue jumpsuit?
I thought that he did.
Did you throw them away in the same garbage, or where did you throw them away?
Well, on the truck, I went to the truck. It was a bigger rest stop where there's like trucks to the right and cars to the left. On the truck side, there were several large trash cans. So things got thrown away in separate cans so that it wasn't all in one place.
So you threw your jumpsuit into a can at a truck stop,
Yes, along with trash from the car.
and you expected that Mr. Rodgers threw away his suit and other items in a different can.
Yeah, he threw things away. I thought that was part of it.
Did you actually see him throw away his blue suit?
I did not.
And did you then start to drive home?
Yes,
Did you drive nonstop?
pretty much.
Did you ever stop for gas?
Yeah, we stopped for gas. We stopped to get food, things like that. But there was no fun stops.
Do you recall stopping at a racetrack up in, I got to get these cities mixed up, Brooksville or Bushnell?
Yes.
Were you able to get gas at the racetrack?
No. That's the only reason I remember it is because the sign was all lit up. But when we got off the exit and tried to get gas, we could see people in there, but they never turned the pump on. And so Jimmy actually walked up to the window to try to, I thought maybe, well, we got to prepay it at the window. Maybe the pump didn't work. But he went up to the window to tell him to turn the pump on, and they told him that they were closed.
Was this late at night or early in the morning?
Yeah, it was, well, I'm sure that it was, I don't know the time. It would have been late night or early morning, like somewhere in there.
So even though you couldn't get gas at the racetrack, you still need gas?
Yes.
You went to another gas station?
Yes.
Is that a Shell station?
I can't remember.
Or you went to another station?
We used the Garmin to say, take me to the next, nearest state gas. So that's how we found the racetrack as well. But
So you did a search in the Garmin. The Garmin showed you a racetrack, so you went to it, but it was closed.
right.
Then you asked for another station, and then you went to the next station.
Yes.
And did you get gas there?
Yes.
And after that, you came home?
Yes.
Let's talk about phones. You told us you had a regular phone, your regular personal phone.
Yes.
Did you bring that with you to Florida?
No, I left it in St. Louis with my
Why'd
wife
you leave it at home?
because I didn't want it to be. I didn't want it to be picked up down here. I also wanted it in St. Louis, so if somebody called me, that it would show that, the tower would show that it was in that location.
You said you bought that prepaid phone at the Walmart up there. Did you bring that one with you?
Yes.
And you had it on?
Yes. Some of the time.
You turned it off at some of the time also?
Yeah.
Did you give Mr. Rodgers any instructions about his phone?
Well, before we left, not like when I picked him up, but before we came down, I had told him not to bring his phone.
Did he follow that instruction?
No.
Brought it with him?
Yes.
At any point, did Mr. Rodgers operate that Garmin unit?
Yeah, I mean, whoever wasn't driving was kind of picking it. The Garmin's pretty simple to use.
And when he was operating the Garmin unit, did he also have his phone?
Yes.
Did you ever see him connect the phone to the Garmin unit in any way?
I remember when that happened. I don't remember the exact how it came about, but I remember I didn't know how to do it, to tell him how to do it, but it's on the screen. It explains it. So we figured it out.
So Mr. Rodgers connected his phone to the Garmin unit?
Yeah. The reason for that was that if it's hooked to a cell phone, it has some additional abilities for like not traffic, because it had that built into it, but I think like accidents, and I think one of the apps even shows you where the police are at or something. It was really just playing with it.
Did you ever get paid your $100,000?
No.
Did you ever tell Mr. Rodgers, was there ever an agreement between you and Mr. Rodgers about if he was going to get paid and how much?
Yeah, we it was kind of a loose agreement, but basically it was about 10,000 is what he agreed would be okay. The reason I actually planned to split with him whatever cash it was. Mark's creative. I didn't know, because we didn't have an exact agreement on how that was going to be paid, but I could see Mark doing something like, he'll buy me a house or something and then and give me $20,000 in cash. So I didn't want to commit more to Jimmy than what I knew that I could personally cover.
So when your friend, Mr. Sievers, promised to pay $100,000 for the death of his wife, did you believe he would pay you?
Yes. Yeah, I don't have any doubts.
And then when you made a loose agreement to share some of that money with Mr. Rodgers, did you intend to keep your word to him?
Yes, absolutely. when we were talking about, the money and getting paid, Jimmy had made a comment about if Mark didn't pay us that he would kill him. So, I mean,
Mr. Rodgers,
Sustained.
I would ask for the,
I'll instruct the jury to ignore the answer that was given and to disregard it.
the person you identified earlier as Jimmy or Jimmy the Hammer or Jimmy Rodgers, do you see that person sitting in court today?
yes, I do.
Point to that person, identify him by an article of clothing he's wearing.
The dark suit, striped tie, next to the other guy with the younger man with the glasses.
The younger man with the glasses wearing a striped tie?
Yes.
I see two younger men with glasses wearing striped ties. I'll tell you what, Miss Fitzgeorge is sitting here right next to me. How many people over is he?
2.
All right. May the record reflect that the witness has identified Jimmy Ray Rodgers.
We'll let the record so reflect.
Tell me the witness.
The state has alleged a conspiracy. The conspiracy itself and each member's participation in it must be established by independent evidence. To prove the crime of criminal conspiracy, the state must prove the following 2 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1, the intent of Jimmy Rodgers was that the offense of first-degree murder would be committed. And 2, in order to carry out the intent, Jimmy Rodgers agreed, conspired, combined, or confederated with Curtis Wayne Wright and Mark Sievers to cause first-degree murder to be committed either by them or one of them or by some other person. It is not necessary that the agreement, conspiracy, combination, or confederation to commit first-degree murder be expressed in any particular words or that the words pass between the conspirators. It is not necessary that the defendant do any act in furtherance of the offense conspired. Have both sides approach for a moment. Ready. I expect the cross of this witness to probably be lengthy, but I will leave it to the jurors. If you'd like to complete that tonight, we can keep going. If not, we can just come back tomorrow morning and continue. We will have to come back tomorrow morning irregardless. Do you want me to give you guys a moment to talk? Tell you what, I'm going to let you guys go back to the jury room, talk for a moment about it, and then come back and let us know what you'd like to do. Please be seated. Just tell them to knock when they have an answer. Otherwise, they might sit back there and wait for us to ask them, right? We'll be in recess momentarily. Don't go anywhere, though. Well, I guess we should go on. Do we need to wait for co-counsel? Do you want to talk to both sides about it privately for a minute? About what it's about? Or
That's okay.
okay, we'll show what you're on. You don't need to put anything on the record.
Okay, thank you very much.
We have both assistant state attorneys present. Mr. Rodgers is present, all four counsel, and our witness is still on the stand. Do you want to bring him out? Please be seated.
Thank you.
What would you all like to do? Okay, fair enough. I'm going to instruct you again not to talk about the case among yourselves or with anybody else or look up any of the people or places involved, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Be seated. Anything else from the state at this time?
No, Mr. Parker wanted to have a word with Mr. I don't know if that can happen later on. She's asking to have a word with the client, but nothing else from the state.
Defense.
We're gonna object in this testimony
You're going to object about what now?
to her having, conferring with her client in the middle of testimony. She's requesting, I'm not aware of Mr. Wright requesting it.
All right, I'll think about it a moment. Who are your next witnesses after this? You have two left?
Yes, Your Honor, we're going to be calling Dr. Coyne, the medical examiner, and we may have one very brief witness, though, in terms of getting a record in.
Okay. And what record would that be?
Well, I want to check our exhibit list. We do have to, and maybe can move it this time. We have the Bank of America, a record from the Bank of America, which was part of our notice of intent to rely upon certified business record. That was filed by the state August 23rd of 2019.
You want to move that in now or tomorrow in front of the jury?
Prefer to move it in front of the jury, but that's
We
one.
can do that tomorrow.
And then if you give me just a moment, Your Honor, as I look at our evidence list,
Okay.
if we have everything else in that.
Just for the record, Mr. Wright just turned to me and asked about talking to his attorney. But I'm going to have you step down, sir, and we'll have you put in the back for a moment.
Okay.
And well, I'm going to have you come up at sidebar in a moment after we deal with something else at sidebar first. Anything else?
Nothing further from the state.
Can I have both sides approach for a moment? You ready? We'll see everybody tomorrow morning at 8:30. That way we can wrap up any issues that we've left unresolved at this point in the morning before the jury gets here at 9. See everybody at 8:30.